Hey there, it's Sarah Oblak Spiker here. How are ya? Happy New Year. If you're anything like me, chances are that you have not really set New Year's New Year's resolutions, but you have set the intentions. And my intention is to continuously blaze a trail and to continuously do the work that I have been called here to do and has scared the living crap out of me to admit for so long. And that is simply to shift the way that we see our possibilities for living, for leading, for being. Just because something has been done in a certain way does not mean it gets to be done that way in the future. And right now we are in the midst of this awakening and the shifts and changes, and we can feel the push and pull between the old and the new rising way. And to illustrate that, let me share with you a recent conversation that I had that actually inspired this video. So I learned that NBA was playing games on Christmas Day as well as New Year's Eve, and I made a quick remark of, how interesting, shouldn't they have some time off? And the response that I got was really thought-provoking. It was, well, they're paid millions to do it, and if they don't want to play, they shouldn't have signed a contract. And I thought to myself, interesting. So just because they love the game and it's their excellence and zone of genius, that means that they have to forgo spending time with family and friends on days that everybody else is saying how important they are. And the response was, well, they're paying millions to do it, they should just shut up and play. You know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah, it really, really, really got me thinking. It's like, wow, just because somebody gets to get paid for what they're so good at, first and foremost, they are labeled as privileged. Secondly, they are treated as they're being owned. Thirdly, they're expected to just shut up and play. I don't think so. This rebel in me was like, now we're going to have a conversation around that. Because there's another side to the story, and there's another side to this coin, so to speak. See, this might have been the way it's always been done. But what I know for a fact is that so many athletes are awakening, and they have been for many years now. Awakening to this deeper knowing there's so much more to them than just the athletic performers. That there's so much more to them than just the outside shell, so to speak, of entertaining the audience. There's substance to them. And they have a drive, and they have a vision, and they have a platform to be the agents of change. And speaking of the platforms, see, when you are an elite athlete, if you look around right now, the world in 2020 has been a really interesting place, turned upside down in any possible way. But one thing that has been consistently remarked on was how people need sports and how much they miss sports. They need it for entertainment, they need it for motivation, they need it for inspiration. And the athletes are now carrying the responsibility of uplifting and bringing the societies out of this darkness. So many would describe the era of 2020, so to speak. Well, if so, what if the new light that we bring get to shine differently than what has been for so many years up to now? And what I'm talking about is inclusion, it's harmony, it's diversity, and it's this radical idea. Oh my gosh, I love the word radical because let me get out on a tangent on this one for a little bit. See, when you look back through the history, thought leaders, pioneers, trailblazers, at a certain point they have all been labeled radical, irrational, crazy even. But here's the thing, before all this amazing technology that we have these days that connects us to the world in a split second, they were on their own. They might have found a couple of people who have thought alike, but not on a scale like we get to do it today. So it was easy to gaslight them into thinking that they indeed were crazy, or that indeed things were not possible. And those with the strongest will, with the most stamina and conviction, they did persevere. They did ignite the changes that then took place over time. And it went from individuals like a tidal wave eventually to the masses until it became a norm and a new normal, right? And now what we get to do, we're experiencing the same thing. People like you and I, we have felt this coming for many years, the changes. Just look around. How many things have happened in 2020 in terms of how we work, how we parent, how we live, that we have been told, oh, it can be done that way. We don't do it this way. Now, all of a sudden, it is being done. One of the examples is people working from home. I have so many friends who have desired for so long to work from home, to have more time with their families, to be able to slow down and to reconnect and to really take the time to go inwards and discover who they were and what they were looking forward to and what really lit them up. But what they say that they just couldn't because they were caught in this rush and the rhythm of everyday craziness, when all that they kept doing was just catching up with the world, rushing through the days, rushing through the weeks, and before they knew it, kids were off to college and they were planning their retirements, and the life went by, and they kept thinking, well, have I done enough, and what if? So for the longest time, my invitation to those individuals have always been like, what was stopping you? And to the people that I get to interact, and I was interacting over the years, what is stopping you from taking a stand for your own dreams, for taking a stand for your own desires and requirements? Well, insert blank, right? So what happened then in 2020, the world came to a full stop, quite literally. And all of a sudden, it shifted how we start to interact, how we start to work, how we start to collaborate, how we start to create. It shifted how we educated kids, right? Homeschooling for many years, like, oh, you crazy. Kids need to go to school. And I'm not a psychologist here. I'm not advocating or claiming that I know better. I'm just saying that as parents, we know our kids, and many times we feel when something doesn't fit them or support them. And our kids, when we listen to them, they know that as well. I know for mine, they were asking to stay home for long before the quarantine actually happened. But it was this push and pull between how it has been always done that ultimately outweighed their desire, and they went back to school until a couple of months later they ultimately stayed home. And yes, there are those who need to be in that environment, and that environment supports them. But again, it's not the framework that is one fits all. And this is what I'm getting to here. The way that things have been oftentimes have been so standardized that literally is taking every individual and contorting every individual to fit that blueprint, to fit that mold. And we are past beyond that. We are way past that. We are now entering a society, entering an era where in a society, as a society, I know it and I dream about it and I can feel it. It might not happen overnight. It might take generations to get to that point. But it's something beautiful about being able to be fully expressive, being able to emerge in a way that fits your individual blueprint, the blueprint you have been born with. And it's not the societal norms, it's what's been written in the stars and ways that you have been preparing for hundreds of lifetimes for this particular moment when you emerge in the world. And I know for a fact that if you are listening this, that it's either you or you know somebody who is in your circles, who also understands that what they have been doing no matter how successfully, it's only a fraction of their potential. It's only a fraction of what's available to them. It's only a fraction of what they really have to offer, including the athletes, including those who are labeled as, oh, privileged because they are making millions, they better shut up and play. They are waking up. They have been for a while. They know that there's substance to what they bring to the table. They are finding and starting to use their voices, and they have the platforms. So my invitation and my dare and my challenge is for each one of us who have this deep knowing. And I'm not going to even try to describe how that feels, because when you have it, you know you have it. This deep knowing that you are meant for more. There is so much more that you came here to create, to experience, to contribute, to become. Don't stop. And you know what? There are no points of reference for many of us who look around, and we might feel the need to find this thing that might resemble what we know on the inside that we get to offer, and it doesn't exist. And that's okay, because we're pioneers. We get to create it. And here's another part of it. I had a conversation recently with somebody who for over 20 years was felt less than, because their gifts did not fit the mold, because what they knew they had to offer did not exist. And they were told to just tone it down, take a seat, quiet down, and just put your head down and just go and do what's, tick off the boxes. And the divide, the disconnect became so deep. The burden of them hiding and pretending to be somebody they were not, the burden of holding back became so much that they were contemplating on taking their own life just to end the misery. 20 plus years. Imagine the strength it's taken to wake up every single morning, recentering and regrounding and trusting, having faith that the day is coming when they will be able to fully express themselves. Simply knowing, without having any clue when that day is coming, but just trusting that it's coming. So putting one foot in front of the other for 20 plus years. Many of us, many have not lived to see that moment because the burden was too heavy, and we lost too many already. Many right now are contemplating whether or not it's worth one more day. And you know what? Many of those people, of those individuals, of those powerhouses on the outside, we recognize them, we know them. They're the ones who have seemingly everything. But on the inside, they might be so empty, so lost, so alone, that chances are that me speaking to them might not catch them. They might not hear me because we are on different wavelengths. But you know what? Chances are that if you now turn around, you receive this message, and you turn around and you speak your truth and you shine your light and you blaze the trail and make it easier for them to follow, it just might be you who they were looking for and waiting for. Perhaps they were waiting for permission. Perhaps they were waiting for acknowledgement. This friend of mine who confided in me, that's all it took. It took a simple conversation, a couple of conversations actually, but ultimately it was recognizing that, hey, there is something to what you have to offer. Why don't we play in it? Why don't we experiment? Why don't we see where it leads us? So at least you get to experience how it gets to feel offering this. And it changed everything for them. And the gifts that I'm talking about, they're so versatile. There's, again, no one size fits all. And I'm not gonna even pretend to know what you have to offer, or what your truth is, or what you need or require or desire. There's no way for me to predict that or to even guess, because this is nonetheless simply a live stream on social platform. But what my hope is that if this does resonate with you, that you give yourself the grace and you give yourself the love and respect, absolutely, to take a look and honor this calling, honor this knowing, even though you might be ridiculed for it, even though you might be questioned. But you know what? You are only going to be questioned by the people who don't get it. So seek out those who do get it. And it's usually not the masses. Oftentimes, I will dare to say it, it's not even those who are close to you. It's not even your family. I have lived it many times when I was told, oh no, we can't, you can't do that. Or, why would you do it? You know, it's going to hurt the other person who loves, so cares for you so deeply. So at the end of the day, the only question remains, like, what hurts more? Betraying yourself and betraying your knowing, betraying your calling? Or maybe disappointing somebody else, or maybe releasing those people whose relationship with you might have come to a completion. And that is perfectly okay, because ultimately the unconditional love does not call for self-sacrifice. And I know it sounds selfish, but it does not call for self-sacrifice. Unconditional love allows for things to shift, to change, transform, transmute, maybe even come to completion. So can you give yourself this unconditional love? And can you give yourself a permission to finally step up, step out, expand your arms and claim it? And yes, it's going to be challenging. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because there's so many things on so many different levels that are going to be pulling you back, from the mindset to the habits, even environment. But then again, you owe it to yourself and the world, and so many people are waiting for you. They're relying on you. They're calling for you. They're looking for you. They can't find you because you're hiding. But that's a beautiful part about it. When we answer our own calling, no matter how terrified it is, something shifts, and we make, when you make this decision and we make a choice and you own it, it's on the energetic level, and then everything else starts to fall into place to support you. And when I say falling in place, sometimes falls out of place. But that is simply a breakdown before the breakthrough. It's a part of the process. And that's why many of us do not do this alone. While there are mentors who, just like I have my own, right? Surrounding ourselves with those who see us, who challenge us, who love us, who support us, who embrace us, and who also light up the fire. Sometimes underneath our asses, sometimes they send us through the fire, so everything that no longer belongs can burn off. But the thing is that even in those cases, it's not necessarily that we are going to be walking in their paths. They are going to be walking with us as we are creating our own. The blueprint is already there, your own. And it's not the one that has been retrofitted to be there so that everybody fits in the mold. That's not how you and I operate. That's why you and I are vibing. That's why you and I are having this conversation right now. So if this speaks to you, the question remains, what are you going to do about it? If you know of anybody who needs to hear this message, please share it with them. And if this is something that you want to continuously pursue, yes, what are you going to do about it is certainly the first question. Second question would be, how does it get to look like? And then expanding on that, the most daring, the most vivid, the most audacious dreams of yours and the visions of yours and desires of yours, that's what you get to hold and move towards. It's scary and it will scare the crap out of you. And that's how you know that you're in the right place. The resistance is going to come up, and that's how you know you're on the right path. But those of you who are listening to this and you're like, hell yeah, I'm in, I'm ready to take on this responsibility, to play in this, and you want me to be by your side to do this together, you know where to find me. Let's have a conversation to see how that would get to look like. Sending you much love and light and some fire and ass kicking. And I can't wait to see what we get to co-create. Because like I said, you and I, we are creating a new way of being, a new way of living, a new way of leading. There's no stopping us. There's no going back. It's only moving forward. The only difference is, are we taking it in one step at a time, or are we taking quantum leaps? I think you know what the answer here is. I'll see you there.